These pearls of wisdom are brought to you by Carl Johnson and members of the Oyster Bay Church of Christ, located at 1044 Shadeville Road, which is 4 miles east of Crawfordville, Florida. What does the Lord require of you? Micah 6:8 is one of the most well-known and important verses in the Bible. It answers the question of what God expects from His people. It says, "He has shown you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." In the larger context of this verse, the prophet Micah is speaking to the people of Israel, accusing them of failing to live up to the covenant that God made with them. The Israelites had fallen into idolatry, injustice, and empty religious practices. They were offering sacrifices, but refused to live according to the values God set out for them. When the Israelites asked what they could do to make things right, Micah tells them that their rituals and sacrifices were not enough. God requires a life marked by justice, mercy, and humility. The first requirement is to act justly. In the Bible, justice is not about only following laws or punishing wrongdoers. It means acting in a way that upholds what is right. God cares about justice, and throughout the Bible, He commands people to protect the poor, the widow, and the orphan. Acting just means standing up for what is right, even when it's difficult. The second requirement is to love mercy. Mercy is about showing compassion and forgiveness, especially when someone has wronged you. It's about choosing kindness over judgment and offering grace to each other, just as God has offered grace to us. Loving mercy means having a heart that seeks to help and forgive others, rather than seeking revenge or holding grudges. God is merciful and slow to anger. By loving mercy, we reflect God's character in our relationships with others. The third requirement is to walk humbly with your God. Humility involves recognizing that God is in charge and that we are not. It means having an attitude of submission to God's will, understanding that we depend on Him for everything. To walk humbly with God is to live focused on Him, trusting where He leads, and seeking to follow Him. To walk with God is to refocus our personal universe where the center is not ourselves and our desires, but is God's desires. Together, these qualities form a picture of what God desires from His people. They're not just actions, but attitudes that reflect a heart that is devoted to God and His will. Micah 6:8 teaches us that God is not looking for empty religious rituals, but for lives that are truly transformed by God's love. This verse should serve as a challenge to us to live in a way that is not just about following the rules, but that is about genuinely caring for others and living in a humble, obedient relationship with God. The book of Micah was set between 740 and 700 BC, but the teachings of justice, mercy, humility, and obedience are just as relevant today. These pearls of wisdom are brought to you by Carl Johnson and members of the Oyster Bay Church of Christ, located at 1044 Shadeville Road, which is 4 miles east of Crawfordville, Florida.